This is San Antonio Bay, and as I said in the piece, prior to the event in 1998, the first Trout Masters Classic, bad flood had sent fresh water down both of these large rivers that you see here feeding into San Antonio Bay, the Guadalupe and the San Antonio rivers. The entire body of water was fresh except for the very southern extremes of it. So places like over here in Twin Lakes still had reasonably salty water. It wasn't very salty, but it was saltier than the generic water in the rest of the bay, so most of the trout and redfish were compressed over here. I was fishing down here in this bottom corner of the lake, standing in the lake and throwing at the shoreline there basically most of the time, and the key for me this weekend was that a cold front was approaching and it created a strong onshore wind. Now in the days prior to the event, most of the guys were fishing up here in East Matagorda, and the story was, this being East Matagorda, the story was you were going to need a 5-pound average to do any good in this event because they were catching so many 5-pounders under the birds. But what happened to them when that big south wind kicked up, they weren't able to catch their fish very easily, or most of them anyway, and it didn't really affect me. So the moral of the story for me over time, as I looked back and thought about what I had done here, was that whenever you're considering making a plan to fish somewhere and there's some negative aspect of the weather, it's always best to think of some place that is either least negatively affected by the bad weather or is possibly even being accentuated by the nature of the bad weather, if that's possible. In this case, because all of these fish were crammed over into these narrow little parts of this bay system, they really had nowhere to go, and that strong south wind coming off of this large landmass, me being in the lee of it, wasn't really negatively affecting me that much. So I followed that principle a lot later in life. If the weather's good and you can fish wherever you want to, then you fish wherever you want to. If it's not, you need to carefully think about what areas are least negatively affected by it or possibly accentuated by it.